What's up guys, CO here with week 4 of the NES Alolan Kahuna tournament. This week we are going up against my good friend Beard, coach of the New York Aqua Jets. I only have one take to do this, by the way, so sorry if the rest of this video is shit. But I do not have very much time to record, so I just wanted to quickly preview the team I'm bringing. I unfortunately don't have enough time to go through the full, what I think he's going to be bringing and what his threats are and stuff. But he has a pretty scary team. I feel kind of self-centered saying that because I helped him build it, but he has a pretty scary team. He drafted Mimikyu, Minior, Wishiwashi, Beware, Drampa, Serena, Tapu Lele, Celesteela. His Mega is Mega Alakazam, and then his free Pokemon are Crocodile, Chandelure, and Scizor. Just threats across the board, pretty much. I know I'm going to be in board for a pretty hyper-offensive game. If you've been watching, you might actually be wondering why I have Nihilego instead of Pheromosa as my Ultra Beast. I actually kind of snuck it into last week's video, but I made a free agency transaction and dropped Pheromosa for Nihilego. I just wasn't really feeling Pheromosa's die in one hit all the time things. It actually would have been pretty damn good this week, unfortunately, but I really wanted to try Nihilego because it gives me a lot of special bulk that I didn't have before. 103 speed tier is really nice because it lets me outspeed base 100s and even outspeed the things that barely outspeed base 100s, like Thunderous Therian and stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited to use this. I wanted to go offensive with it the first week instead of just being the super standard Stealth Rocks, Toxic Spikes lead. Also, fingers crossed, I have to kind of be a little bit less budget on my layouts and stuff this week because my laptop hasn't really been working that well, so I'm trying to do this as fast as I can. That's why everything looks all weird here, but just bear with me for this week, hopefully. Choice Scarf Nihilego with Sludge Wave, Thunderbolt, Dazzling Gleam, and Stealth Rock in case I get a free switch. I'm not really anticipating to really be able to go for rocks, but he does have a couple of things that are pretty weak to it, so it'd be nice to be able to get him up if I can. Sludge Wave, Oko's Lele, or I think it actually does 90% or something, so I need a little bit of prior damage on it, but it should be okay. Thunderbolt's mostly for Celesteela, if I'm being perfectly honest, because fuck that thing. And Dazzling Gleam is for Crocodile, and I know it's mostly for Crocodile because I just wanted something to hit it with, but it's also for Beware too, that's right. Next up, we have Scizor. Pretty standard Scizor, honestly. I wanted Spadef to be able to take an HP fire from Lele, if it was scarfed and predicted me or something. I can't really take anything from any of his Fire Stab or anything, so pretty much anything from Chandelure is going to kill me. Potentially even a Flamethrower from Drampa or something could kill me if he's a Life Orb special attacker, I think. So I got to be careful for that. But Iron Head, Defog, U-Turn, and Bullet Punch, pretty standard moveset to be honest. But I just kind of needed this on my team, first of all, and mainly because he has Minior. If he brings Minior, I'm pretty much screwed, to be honest, because that thing just wrecks the team build that I have. I had to bring Scizor specifically for it. I actually really wanted to bring Mega Sableye this week because it's a really good Celesteela counter. But he has a couple of fairy options that made that a little less appealing, I guess. Speaking of fairy options, we have my Tapu Koko. Trying to mix it up again and bring a kind of weird set, I guess. You may be wondering why I'm bringing choice specs if I'm using 2 physical attacks as well. I wanted momentum with U-Turn, and I wanted to be able to just get that last bit of chip damage on anything that's focus sashed. This is specifically for if he leads Shell Smash Minior and just Shell Smashes turn 1, just trying to punch holes in my team and stuff. I have a designated counter lead to go with this, and I'll just be able to chip it off with Quick Attack, basically bring it down to its sash. Quick Attack only does 2% or something to it, but it only needs to do 1%, so that's all that matters. U-Turns for Initiative, and Thunderbolt and Electric Terrain just hurts a lot. Stab, Dazzling Gleam, I believe Oko's anything but Assault Vest, Crocodile, and it does a lot of damage to pretty much everything because it's Stab. Another thing you'll probably notice about this week is that it's not exactly the strongest team build I've had, I would say. I was on my ass basically from Tuesday to Saturday, early Saturday I would say. with a really bad stomach flu, so I didn't really even get to like test my team until Saturday. Then my laptop started having issues. Then I was able to build like for a couple of hours on Sunday morning. It is now Tuesday when I have enough time to actually record this, but whatever. Yeah. Next up we have Pelipper. This is actually said designated lead to counter Minior because I'm scared to fucking death of that thing. Basically the plan for this is if he brings Minior, I lead Pelipper 100%. Like there's no reason for me not to lead Pelipper because I can set up a Tailwind turn 1 if he stays in with Minior. If he counters me and tries to lead Tapu Lele and go for a Thunderbolt, I can just switch out or whatever. I could also go for a Tailwind against that if I really want to because I am Focus Sash, so I can guarantee live. But there's not really a whole lot of reason for me to. Honestly, I'll just save the Sash for Minior. And Surf and Hurricane are just good stab moves. Surf in the Rain hurts a lot, and Hurricane is obviously very good on it. This has enough speed to outspeed his base 60s, but I forget what they are offhand. Beware. And I believe it also allows me to outspeed Celesteela, but I don't really need to with the set. But yeah. Next up, we have the Rain Abuser of the team. I didn't want to bring Life Orb Kingdra, first of all, because it kind of wore me down like a lot while I was attacking. And secondly, because I just didn't really want to bring the same Kingdra I've kind of been bringing all the time. So I wanted to mix it up a little bit and use this as my Z user this week. Hydro Pump, Waterium Z, or Hydro Pump boosted Z move, I guess. 2 hit KOs, even specially defensive Celesteela, like max specially defensive Celesteela in the rain, which is pretty cool. And by 2 hit KOs, I mean I can go for Hydro Vortex turn 1 and Hydro Pump turn 2. I don't mean to use the Z move twice, I guess. I wanted to use a bit of a mix set this week because I didn't want to bring Flash Cannon for Tapu Lele, just because Tapu Lele is very specially defensive. Iron Head pretty much OHKOs, I believe. I don't exactly remember the calc offhand, but it should OHKO, and Sub's just there with 8 HP investment, just so I can get a sub up on a switch, hopefully, and then just go for Hydro Pump if I need to. This thing's basically just designed, obviously, to be my Swift Swim Sweeper, but it's also another Minior counter. If I lead Pelipper and Tailwind, I'm able to basically get a free +4 if I'm able to switch into Kingdra under Tailwind, because Kingdra under Tailwind doubles, and then Swift Swim doubles. I don't know if it doubles that or if it doubles the initial one, but either way it's fast as fuck. So I'm even able to outspeed a +2 core form Minior, which is pretty cool because that thing's really hard to outspeed. And finally, we have the win con of the team. Don't mind those extra 4 EBs. Again, I didn't really have enough time to properly do everything this week. But we have the win con of the week in a Shokaberry Magearna with Shift Gear. It was really actually pretty hard to come up with the 3 coverage moves that best hit his team because he has pretty diverse coverage options. But the 2 cannons and Ice Beam seem to pretty much hit everything. I think the only thing I don't hit with this is Wishy-Washy and Celesteela, I guess, but I have enough Celesteela answers that I'm not really too worried about it. But basically, once Celesteela is out of the way, honestly, I can pretty much just bring this in and try to shift gear. I'll need to kind of be patient with it, I guess, but the +2 speed boost allows me to outspeed anything on his team after I get it up. I don't need to be attack, obviously, because I'm not mixed attack on this set, so just max Spadef, or max attack, and a little bit of Spadef investment. And the rest of the speed that I didn't need, because I don't need to be max speed, I just need to be Jolly. The rest I just pumped in HP. Okay, gonna switch over to the battle now. Alright, so I didn't actually do like a team preview, like what I think he's going to be bringing and stuff, but this isn't really the team I expected. I was pretty sure that Celesteela was going to be coming, and I was pretty certain that Scizor and Minior were going to be coming as well. Seeing Drampa and Wishy-Washy over them is kind of concerning because I honestly didn't actually have enough time to practice against them. Like, I know what they do, obviously, but I haven't actually had enough time to properly prep and be like, okay, I know I have X counter for this or something. If you missed the team builder, Shift Gear Magearna, Focus Sash, Pelipper, Specs Tapu Koko with U-Turn and Quick Attack, Scarf Nihilego, Aquaberry Scizor, and Waterium Z sub Kingdra are my sets. I don't really have like a great lead this week, so I'm debating pretty hard between going for Scizor and just U-turning out, or using my initial plan and just leading Pelipper, getting Rain Up, and then kind of seeing where I can go from there, I guess. I actually debated this move for a while, but I'm going to speed this up a little bit because I didn't really need to preview too much. I'm expecting just a fast, hard-hitting Alakazam. I'm praying that that's not Scarfed Moxie Crocodile pretty much, because Crocodile wrecks this team, actually. I'm expecting it to kind of be a Scarf Chandelier, though, if I'm being honest. Wishy-Washy's probably just going to be a Life Orb attacker used to take advantage of my Rain, but he leads Drampa as I lead Pelipper, which is a fantastic lead on his part because I completely fucking forgot about Cloud9. And he told me after the battle that like Drampa was the one thing that he was like dead set on bringing this week. So very good planning on his part to just completely nullify my Rain and do something that I hadn't even practiced, to be perfectly honest, which is bad prep on my part. But again, I was really sick and had laptop issues this week, so I didn't really get as much practice as I wanted to. But anyway, I don't really want to stay in and break my Sash. My Focus Sash isn't quite as important since Minior is not here, but I still would like to keep it for Tapu Lele. If I need to get a Tailwind up late game, that could be nice. If I need to reset the Rain and actually have it do anything, that would be nice. So I'm just going to do a hard switch here into what is a win con, actually, but seemed like the best switch at the time in Magearna. I figured there was nothing that he could really do to 2-hit KO me here, especially in Rain. Thunderbolt does a lot, but I was like, okay, I can take another Thunderbolt or whatever, and I'm definitely going to OHKO with Flirt Cannon, so I hope he sees that and switches out. I'm going to get a Shift Gear up on his set, and we're going to start putting in some work already. It's not going to be quite as easy as I thought because Chandelier was here too, and I actually don't really have the best answers for that, but I figure I can just smack it or switch out. I actually want him to see that I'm Shift Gear, so he has to play around it appropriately. So while it's very, very aggressive for me to bring my Wincon in turn 2, I'm going to go for it here. Unfortunately, he goes for Flamethrower and kills, and I'm like frantically calcing to figure out how a Flamethrower in the Rain could kill. Completely spaced on fucking Cloud9 that happened 1 turn ago. So within the span of 2 turns, I managed to completely destroy my thing that could have potentially swept this game in Shift Gear Magearna. I'm just going to blame this on the fact that I was not really playing that well in the beginning of this game. After I calced and realized that I completely fucking forgot about Cloud9 and the fact that his Flamethrower wouldn't be half damage because of the Rain, I kind of settled down a little bit. That was just a pretty rare, like, complete fucking brain fart on my part. But I'm already down 5-6 and lost a win con and now have to basically switch into this thing. I remember that Swift Swim probably isn't going to work because of Cloud9, so I don't actually decide to go into Kingdra. I could have threatened him out with a Draco Meteor, but after he stayed in against a thing that could have very easily Flirt Cannon and killed him, I didn't really want to trust anything, if I'm being perfectly honest. So I go into Tapu Koko, praying that he just like sees the Dazzling Gleam coming and switches out. He doesn't, which kind of sucks because it doesn't kill. I knew going into this that Beard's kind of like an unpredictable player, and I needed to kind of play around that, but my instincts kind of kicked in and just kind of was like, oh, he's going to see Dazzling Gleam coming and know that that's going to do a lot. He didn't really care though. Gets a huge Flamethrower off on me, which sucks because Tapu Koko is another win con, and I need to keep it pretty healthy. But I know for a fact that he's going to see this next Dazzling Gleam coming, but after the first couple turns of the game, I was just like, you know what? I just need to do damage to the thing in front of me. I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised to see how much that Dazzling Gleam did to Lele. It makes it a lot easier to revenge kill. I believe even Iron Head from Kingdra, sorry, is now like guaranteed, even if he's like a weird max defense set. I'm pretty sure it's guaranteed to kill now. So that's good. I now have to switch into Tapu Lele, which isn't as good. I'm gonna be perfectly honest and say I'm not 100% on Cloud9, or like on how Cloud9 works. So I don't actually know if I have Rain right now. That's just like a gap in my knowledge that I still actually didn't even research, which is kind of bad on my part. But I figure even if I don't have Rain, even though it says I do, because of Cloud9, I can still probably afford to switch into Scizor here and take an HP Fire because I have Aqua Berry, if he makes the hard prediction, but otherwise Scizor is just a really safe play anyway. He goes for the Moonblast. I'm not exactly sure what he was predicting. I kind of expected him to go for the Psychic or something, predicting my Nihilego to come in, but he didn't. So Moonblast goes off, and I'm able to basically just get a free switch here. He thankfully switches out. I was going to be pretty bad if I U-turned into something to have to take another Moonblast. I would have probably just risked Nihilego at this point. Hope that he's Scarfed or potentially Specs. I wasn't calculating like every turn to this battle because my computer wasn't really doing that well. So I'm kind of having to do a lot of this offhand, which is a bit of an issue for me sometimes. But I get a free U-turn off, and there's really no reason for me to not to go into Tapu Koko here. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, Beard got in my head here a little bit. Like, my play 100% here is to just go for Dazzling Gleam most of the time because it's pretty fucking obvious the Crocodile's coming in. But I had to calc it to see, and a Specs Dazzling Gleam wasn't a guaranteed OHKO to school Wishy-Washy from this range. I think I needed like another 8 to 10%, I think, for it to be a guaranteed OHKO. And I did not want to risk Tapu Koko at this point because I realized that it was probably my hardest hitting thing that I had left. So I unfortunately go for the Thunderbolt. You can see where this is going based on my commentary, I guess. Like, this is a play that I normally never make, but because Beard like threw me off so early in the game, I was just like, you know what, I gotta go for it. I have to realize that I'm not playing I don't know, I'm not playing an opponent that like aggressively switches all the time, so I have to play that appropriately. Unfortunately, he aggressively switched there, and I was like, well, fuck. Now I have to switch into Crocodile because I don't really have anything that can take that. I just decide to go into Pelipper because it's the thing that doesn't really care if it gets knocked off. Like, keeping the Focus Sash would have been nice, but it's not 100% necessary. At this point, I'm kind of wishing I would have just run Damp Rock because I would have at least gotten a little bit more rain. But whatever. I'm going to go ahead and stay in here, even though I'm pretty sure he's just going to go for a Rock Slide and kill me. Since he's Intimidate, I figure he's probably not Choice Scarfed. Choice Scarf Intimidate is actually kind of a cool set, just to bluff. But I don't think he is Choice Scarf Intimidate. He's probably just like a defensive Crocodile, I guess. So I go for the Tailwind, obviously kind of expecting this thing to die, but I'm okay with it dying. Rain isn't as important as it would have been if Minior was still around. So I'm okay with sacking Pelipper, even though I saw the Rock Slide coming and could have switched into something. Nothing else really wanted to take a Rock Slide. Even like Nihilego has piss defenses and would have probably taken at least like 70% for it. I didn't want to hard switch into Kingdra just because I didn't want the damage off on it. And Scizor and Tapu Koko both take neutral, and I'm not switching into a Crocodile on with a Tapu Koko. That just seems a little ridiculous to me. So Pelipper's dead. Now that I get the free switch, I can switch into Kingdra. Take 3 of me trying to predict Beard here. I have to see him seeing either a Surf or a Hydro Pump coming here, so no reason to not go for Sub. I go for Sub, he stays in, gets the knockoff off, and I'm just like, okay, so I could play this game of just trying to substitute on the turn that he switches out, but there's really no reason for me to. So I cross my fingers here, and with everything I have, I'm just like, please universe. I have never landed an important Hydro Pump or a Stone Edge when I've actually needed to. Just please land this, because I didn't want to use my Z move yet, because I wanted it to either be for Zam or Lele. The odds of it being for Zam were pretty unlikely, because I have to basically let it trace something else and then switch back into Kingdra, and I don't think I have the rain turns for that. But I wanted to save the Z move for something else. So I'm just like, please land a Hydro Pump. I land the Hydro Pump, thankfully. I think he was predicting me to go for another substitute there, because otherwise I don't really know why he would stay in against the Swift Swim Kingdra. So I finally managed to predict him. Turn 11, I've missed like 4 or 5 predictions so far and finally got one right, so I was like, yes, on track. And if you watch my team builder part of this beginning, you'll know that I was scared to death of Crocodile. So having it be the first thing gone in his team is pretty relieving. I assume he's just going to go into Zam here, which he does. Shout out to the Spoon Man, by the way, good nickname. I don't want him to trace Swift Swim, even though there's only 1 turn left, mainly because I want to keep Kingdra alive. It can substitute against both Wishy-Washy and Drampa, potentially Chandelure as well, unless it's like a Choice Scarf set. And if I get a sub up, it's just a free hit on something, so I don't want to sack Kingdra quite yet. So I hard switch into Scizor, predicting the Dazzling Gleam. I don't like that he gets Technician, but it's not the end of the world because he does actually go for Dazzling Gleam and it does nothing. Shoutouts to Scizor resisting Fairy, by the way, because otherwise I would have been fucked this week. So I have no reason not to U-turn here. Even if it has HP Fire, I live because I still have my Aqua Berry. He actually shows that he doesn't have HP Fire, which is kind of interesting to me. So he turns into Chandelure, and I just get out into Kingdra, because like I said, I'm pretty sure that I outspeed here. If he's a Scarf set and goes for Shadow Ball, I think that's going to be his best move, but I still don't know if that kills, because I do have a little bit of health investment, I think. And either way, I'm still fairly healthy. I predict him to potentially switch out here, but given how many times I predicted him to switch out and he hasn't switched out, I'm just going to go straight for the Hydro Vortex here. I don't want to miss at this turn, if I'm being perfectly honest. I just want to get damage off on something, because something needs to take a hit here. My main method of winning this game at this point is just sweeping with Choice Scarf Nihilego, so I'm kind of putting all my eggs in that basket at this point. He shows Leftovers, which is awesome, because that probably means that he's Calm Mind set, so again, guaranteed to outspeed here. I really wanted to substitute, but given how many times he had not switched out, there was no reason for me to risk that. So it's overkill, but I bodied the fuck out of that Tapu Lele, which felt satisfying. If you've ever faced Tapu Lele in League, being able to just wipe it out feels very nice. So I'm glad that I was able to take that out. Kingdra's pretty expendable at this point. It's Z moves used. I'm not going to get a sub up against anything. I don't care if he gets Swift Swim at this point, because I don't have my Rain Sweater anymore. So I just go ahead and sack off Kingdra. Also shout out to Rain Sweaters. So I sack off Kingdra here, and again, there's no reason for me not to go into Scizor. I'm still healthy enough to live in HP Fire if he just bluffed it last turn and didn't have it. I have Aqua Berry, so I'm not really tripping if he goes for it. But again, he switches out, which just shows me that he doesn't have it. U-turn is able to take out Drampa, which gives him turn initiative, which is good for him. But I'm actually kind of alright with it, because Drampa was something that was quietly being pretty threatening to my team. And now this turn is huge, so I wanted to pause it here, even though I really don't have time to talk about this. So I need to U-turn into something predicting Alakazam to come in. So I could go into Tapu Koko here and just basically sack it off to try to get a little bit of extra damage and then sweep in the Nihilego and Scizor. I obviously can't stand with Scizor because I just U-turned, but I actually EV'd my Nihilego to live a Psychic, from Alakazam, which is pretty crazy. I should most of the time be able to do about like 80% or so to even like a pretty bulky Alakazam. Like, I mean, quote unquote bulky, because Alakazam's not really that bulky. But like if he has a little bit of HP investment and most like speed and special attack or something, I should be able to do like 80% or something, which is enough for me to be able to clean up with Scizor and Tapu Koko. So it's at this point that I can either switch into Tapu Koko, do chip damage, and have Nihilego be my win con, or go into Nihilego, do chip damage, and potentially have Scizor or Tapu Koko be my win con. Hindsight, Tapu Koko coming in here would have actually probably been a better play, but I wanted to go into Nihilego because, like I said, I thought I had EV'd myself to live a Psychic. So he traces Beast Boost, which is fucking terrifying, but I had to kind of do it. The fact that that only did 61% shows me that he has significant health investment, because I was expecting that to do closer to like 80 to 90%, because then I would have been able to clean up with Tapu Koko Quick Attack, as weird as that is. I would have been able to get the revenge kill by resetting the terrain and then just pivoting between Scizor and Tapu Koko to wear down the rest of his stuff. I already know that his Chandeler's not Scarf, so I don't have to worry about him outspeeding Scizor or anything, and he's definitely not outspeeding Tapu Koko. But the fact that that did that little shows me that he has a lot of health investment, and the fact that that O-code showed me that he's modest, which is pretty terrifying. And it's at this point that I'm just like, well, fuck, I lost. Like, there's not really very much I can do here. My thing that was supposed to do a lot more damage to that didn't do the damage I wanted. As I calced it, I realized that I also was not able to kill with Quick Attack from here because he had HP investment, which I wasn't expecting at all. I can't go for Bullet Punch because Psychic Terrain's up, so I can't even just switch into Scizor here and just Bullet Punch it and kill it. So I was like, well, I misplayed the shit out of that. But Furiously Calking, this turn takes like 5 minutes for me to actually like do anything, by the way. But Furiously Calking, I realized that a modest Alakazam with HP investment might actually not outspeed my incorrectly EV'd Tapu Koko. And I'll explain this in a second, but basically, I wanted this Tapu Koko to be able to outspeed everything, I believe, below Tapu Lele, because I didn't think I'd be able to outspeed Alakazam at all anyway. I wanted to EV this to only have like probably 100 or so EVs, but because my laptop was freaking out, I had to move to my computer and like move to the Pokemon Showdown website and just rebuild the team. And I accidentally gave Tapu Koko max speed, which meant I had 200 speed EVs, which actually means that there's no reason for me to be able to do this, but I outspeed with a U-turn here and I'm able to kill. If that was just offensive Alakazam, I pretty much lost that game. He would have had to have been a pretty specific spread to live both Sludge Wave and Quick Attack and outspeed Tapu Koko, I guess. So that might have been asking a lot of being able to calc like a lot of different scenarios. But the fact that I lived, or the fact that I didn't live that Psychic showed me that that thing was stronger than I thought and bulkier than I thought. So luckily U-turn still killed. I didn't want to risk Thunderbolt. I could have probably just went for Thunderbolt and just did all the damage here, but I really just wanted to get U-turn off and go into Scizor. I was pretty panicked at this point, if I'm being perfectly honest, so I'm just trying to furiously calc and think of ways for me to win this game. He goes into Wishy-Washy here, and I go for an Iron Head just to get chip damage off. He finally shows HP Fire. I show my Aqua Berry and it does a ton of damage. And it's here that I realize that I actually can win this game, but I need him to kill me this turn, as weird as it is. If I would have just stayed in with Tapu Koko, I'm pretty sure I would have been able to just at least kill Wishy-Washy with a Thunderbolt pretty easily. But because I switch into Scizor here, and I only have 3 turns left of Psychic Terrain, which I believe is actually turning to 2 turns here. No, it is 3 turns. Okay. I had 3 turns of Psychic Terrain left and 2 Pokemon left to kill, and I knew that even though Specs Thunderbolt hurts, I don't think a Specs Thunderbolt without Psychic Terrain would kill Chandelure from like the 90% it's at or something. So I need Wishy-Washy to kill me here. So I can go into Tapu Koko, get my 2 turns of Electric Terrain left, and potentially a Thunderbolt sweep. So I go for a Bullet Punch here because I don't want to flinch it. He goes for a Scald and kills, luckily. If he would have doubled into Chandelure there, I think I would have actually been in for a little bit of a world of hurt. But I go into Tapu Koko here, 2 turns left, Thunderbolt kills Wishy-Washy, which is dope, and from 97%, Thunderbolt actually kills Chandelure, and I narrowly escaped this game with a 1-0. I don't think that I played it perfectly, to be perfectly honest, but I think I did a pretty good job considering the circumstances. Beard's team is super scary, he plays it well, and he just has a play style that I am not very good at predicting. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there now. It works for him, so I can't criticize it at all, but it's definitely hard for me to predict. I could have probably played this endgame a little bit better and potentially made this closer to a 2-0 or maybe even a 3-0 if I played it like perfectly. It should have probably been a 2-0 because I could have just stayed in with Tapu Koko when I forget what turn it is, but I could have stayed in with Tapu Koko after the Nihilego thing and just probably swept with Thunderbolt from this point. But I just went for U-turn because I was like, well, I might as well pivot in a Scizor and try to do what I can. But that's okay. I'm not going to complain about a 2-0 versus a 1-0. I just appreciate the wins, and I appreciate being able to kind of clutch it out like that. It was a pretty exciting game, and one that I'm definitely glad to have on my channel because it's probably one of the hyper ones I've had in a while. Next week, we are going up against the AC Melantern, coached by Doudsy. I've played him 3 times in this league, and he has bodied me 2 times. But I beat him in the playoffs in Season 1, so I have that going for me. It's going to be a really tough battle. I'm scared to death of his team. He has a pretty scary sand team as well as a scary not sand team. So it's going to take a lot of prep. I hope you guys are looking forward to it. Like and subscribe, and have a good day. I will see you guys next time. Bye.